Hello students, in today's lecture we are going to see the concept of MBO. MBO means management by objectives. This concept is being coined by Peter Drucker. So in today's lecture we are going to see what is the strategy of MBO and what is the definition of MBO. So let us start with today's lecture. Before we talk about the concept of MBO or management by objectives, I would like to tell or I'd like to introduce who is Peter Drucker. Students, Peter Drucker is a well known management thinker and is known as management guru. So management guru means a person who is having a thorough knowledge about management. He is such a well known personality in the world of management that it was supposed that the company which is having a management consultant as Peter Drucker as a management consultant, it's supposed to be the successful company, or its success of any company was measured on the basis that their management consultant is Peter Drucker. So that famous Drucker was, and as I said, that he is called as management guru, and also he is being called as father of modern management. So students, we are learning the subject modern management. So before, in earlier lectures we have seen the importance of modern management, the meaning, the changing environment in modern management. So from henceforth, in further lectures we are going to see which people or which management thinkers have contributed in modern management. And the first name which comes in our mind is Peter Drucker, who has coined or who has come up with the concept like MBO, which has become very famous wherever you go. I mean, MBO is a concept which is being has become so popular, and therefore Peter Drucker has also become so very popular, not only because of this concept, but I would like to give a brief introduction about Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker was born in 1909 in Vienna, Austria, and he belonged to a Dutch family. Then, after his graduation, he came to USA in 1973, and from 1950 onwards, he worked as a professor of management at Graduate Business School of New York University. So, by profession, he was a professor actually, and later on he started consulting the organizations. He worked as a management consultant. Then he has received, this is very important, he has received 16 honorary doctorates from various American, Belgian, English, Japanese and Swiss universities. So his work was so very well recognized by all the countries all over the world that he has been given 16 honorary doctorates. Doctorates means PhDs. Okay, so 16 universities have given him doctorate. And in 2002, the then US President George W. Bush presented him the nation's highest civilian honor. So, students, he was also been honored by George Bush with the highest civilian honor in 2002. Then, along with this, he authored or he has written many insightful books. He wrote extensively not only on management. Actually, Peter Drucker's name is associated with only name management, but actually, he has written books on various disciplines like economics, history, religion, education, philosophy, art, and he's, as I said, that he is called as father of modern management. So consistently his work, or he wrote about the importance of management to business organizations and society at a large. He believed that management is so very important in every business organization and for the society as a whole. Then he repeatedly preached the philosophy of MBO, which we are going to learn in this topic, the philosophy of management by objectives and self control. And he believed in creative management, and he explained the role of management and importance in his famous book The Practice of Management, in which he has, I would like to highlight a few things which he has mentioned in the Practice of Management book. He explains that manager is dynamic, life giving element in every business. Life giving, we always say, finance or money is the lifeblood of business. But what Peter Drucker feels is that manager is a life giving element in every business. And what he thinks is that Drucker has explained in his book how management can remove poverty. That means he believed that if you manage your resources very well, then any country can remove its poverty. So he commented that developing countries are not underdeveloped, but they are undermanaged. Therefore, he feels that management is the mover and development is the consequence. And therefore, he believes that developing countries should manage themselves or manage their resources in such a way with the help of management they can remove their poverty and can be on the path of development. This is what Drucker used to feel. Then among the various thoughts and views which are expressed by Drucker, MBO and self control are widely discussed and accepted concepts all over the world. Then according to Drucker, he thinks that the only one definition of business is to create a customer. Okay, so there are some comments or some sentences of Drucker which are very important for business organization. Which one of them which I discussed is it now was to create a customer. That is the only definition of business. Finished. Okay, so if you want to create a customer, you will go for good production, good qualitative product. You'll give that product at a reasonable price. You'll attract the customer. You'll go for heavy advertisement and publicity, isn't it? So creation of customer is the only one definition of business. This is what Drucker thinks. Then in case coming towards uh, our concept of MBO, this concept was, as I said, it was developed by Drucker in 1954. And what is this concept? Now the name itself signifies MBO. MBO means what? Management by objectives. That means you have to manage your whole organization with the help of objectives. That means you will have to set objectives for your individuals, for your organization as a whole, for each of the department, for each of the team, isn't it? And then you will have to strive hard to see to it that your objectives are accomplished, right? You have achieved your objectives in the way in which you were desired to achieve them, isn't it? So the main part, the first second point is over here is that accomplishment of objectives through participation of all the concerned people. Now in case of MBO, we are going to see what is the process and what is the cycle of MBO. But before going for that, while explaining the concept, when we are talking about achievement of objectives, here participation of those people who are in the process of achieving the objectives is very important, right? So here two words are very important: accomplishment and participation, right? So participation, of whose participation is required? Of those people who are concerned with the achievement of objectives, isn't it? So that is the important core part of this MBO. Then in continuation with the second point itself, the third point goes this way, like participative and democratic style of management. Okay, so as I said, participative means it requires participation of all the people in the organization who are concerned with the accomplishment of objectives. Okay, and democratic style of management. Now this participative and democratic, it means it's a leadership style. We are talking about leadership style. So how your leader must be, or how your manager must be: he must believe in participation of his subordinates. He must be having a democratic style. You have learned democratic style of management in your first year under styles of leadership, right? So in democratic style, a leader believes that I should give equal chance to each of the subordinate to express his opinion. Okay, and so equal chance and equal opportunity is being given. And in democracy, he believes that whatever decision has to be taken, it is to be taken after considering the majority of the opinion. Okay, so majority wins. That kind of thinking a democratic leader has, Right, so MBO believes in participative and democratic style because unless and until those people who are concerned with the accomplishment of objective, unless and until they participate actively in this process, then it's of no use, isn't it? So to make your MBO process more effective, you need participative and democratic style. Okay, then moving towards the third point, the principle behind MBO is to make sure that everybody in the organization has clear understanding of aims, objectives of the organization, and their roles and responsibilities in achieving those objectives. Again, in continuation with the third point, as I said, participative now, participation of those concerned people is very important. So, in MBO, your manager has to make it sure that whatever objectives are set for individuals, for organization, for department, your individuals or your employees have clear understanding of those objectives. They should understand what is my objective, what I am supposed to do, and in how much time I'm supposed to do the task, isn't it? And what is my role or what is my responsibility, or what kind of responsibility is being shouldered upon me to achieve that objective. That should be very clear. That means none of your employees should be in confused state of mind where he should think that how what kind of role I'm supposed to play here, isn't it? So this should be very made very clear, that what is my role in achieving the objectives. Okay, so these are the four important points in MBO. Okay, then we are going to see the definition of MBO given by George Odion. He says MBO is the process whereby the superior and subordinate managers of an organization jointly define its common goals. Now here it is very important, jointly define. Now, as I said, participative style of leadership is useful over here, or it is expected over here, where superior and subordinate, both of them, your manager and your assistant, both of them will together sit together, have joint meetings together, and they will set their common goals, right? Then moving towards the next part of definition says that define each individual's major areas of responsibility in terms of results expected of him, and use these measures as guide for operating the unit and assessing the contribution of each of its members, right? That means define individuals major areas of responsibility. That means here again, every individual must know what kind of responsibility I am shouldered with, and what is my role, what role is being assigned by my management to me in achieving the objectives, right? And how I'm going to contribute towards the achievement of objective. This has to be very clear. Okay, then what is MBO strategy? In short, what is the concept of MBO that is being given over here? So the first is that all individuals within the organization are assigned with set of objectives which they are supposed to attain in specific period of time. So students, here not only objectives are set for individuals or groups, but they are also being given specific time within which they are supposed to achieve that. So unless and until you give some kind of deadline, people don't work. So deadline has to be given specific period of time. Then second is that objectives are set after considering the capacity and ability of individual. Now this is very 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 important. Okay, so what does it say? Capacity and ability of individuals. So how the objectives are set? In definition we saw that whenever you are deciding your common goals or objectives, your superior and subordinates, they both are sitting together, right? So they are discussing about what should be your objective. Now this objective is set after considering the capacity and the ability of the individual. Okay, now why this ability and capacity has to be checked? Because if you set the objective which is beyond the ability and the capacity of individual, what will happen when the objectives are too difficult? If they are beyond your individual's capacity, then your individual or your employee would be under pressure, right? So this would affect his work. He'll neither be able to achieve the objective, and nor he'll be very comfortable in doing the work, isn't it? So his ability and capacity, his skill, his qualification, his earlier performance has to be considered, and then only the objectives are to be set. This is what the second point says. Then the third one is that objectives are neither too easy nor too difficult. Okay, the objectives, how they should be set, they should not be too easy nor too difficult, but they should be such that they should be within the reach of an employee. That means they should not be that much difficult and nor too easy also. Now students, what happens when your objectives are set very easy, if they are very easy to do, the if things are very easy to do, what happen, people neglect those objectives, they don't take it seriously, and they think that it's so very easy, I can do it anytime, it's very easy. Okay, so nobody takes it seriously. When it is too difficult, what will happen, your employee would be frustrated, he will be continuously under pressure, and then this would definitely affect his mental and physical health. So objectives should not be too easy nor too difficult, but they should be challenging. Your individual should feel, or your employee should feel, that whenever I'm working on these objectives, my potential is being fully utilized in the organization, right? So that gives him a great feeling, a joyous feeling to that employee, because my talent, my intelligence, my potential, whatever I have learned, whatever experience I do have, whatever qualification I have do have, whatever I have studied up till now, if that is being used practically while doing the work, then nothing other than that, an individual becomes happy while doing the work. So objectives should be challenging and not too easy, not too difficult. Then after setting the objective, the next comes that performance review should be taken periodically to know how close the individuals have reached their objectives, and also if there is any kind of difficulty in achieving the objective, then proper guidance is to be provided and problems are to be solved. Now what happens when you set the objectives, you leave your individual to uh, achieve that objective, right, within specified period of time. Now what happened between that, for example, today you have set your objective. Okay, periodically you should keep on taking the review. Now periodically means it is again liberty of that management. You have to decide as a manager that after 1 week I'm supposed to take the review, after quarterly I'll be taking the review, after 1 month I'll be taking the review. The time period of taking review has to be decided by the manager himself, right? Shorter the period, more comfortable it would be for the both the manager and the subordinate, because short meetings, after short period, if you are meeting your boss every time, and then what will happen, your difficulties would be solved immediately, right? You'll be shown a right direction by your manager. Now suppose today you have decided your objectives, and in next 6 months you don't meet your, or you don't discuss about your objectives with your boss, you don't have any periodical review, what will happen, after 6 months your boss will ask you that whether you have achieved your objectives. It's of no use, you have forgotten everything about it, what difficulties you have faced, and you have stopped working on it, isn't it? So it's of no use. So periodic reviews are very important, in which you come to know that whether your employees are lagging behind, they are proceeding further, they are successful in achieving objectives, do they have any problems in achieving objectives, or are the objectives very difficult for them to achieve, and do they need any reshuffling, resetting of objectives, anything. So you can come across what kind of problems these people are having, and accordingly you can tackle those problems, solve their problems, right? So performance review has to be taken periodically, so that you come to know that whether your employees are working upon their objectives, and whether they are able to achieve them. And last is rewards are given to those who achieve the objective. Now this is very 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 important, because when people do good work, they have to be appreciated. Okay, so when your individuals have achieved your objectives, it's your duty as a manager, as a leader, to reward your employee, And reward may be of any kind. It depends. Again, you are free to give a reward to your employee. It may be in the form of promotion. If it is in the form of promotion, nothing like that, your employee would be very much happy to be promoted on the higher hierarchical level, isn't it? So he will definitely feel that this is the fruit of my hard work of achieving the objective, isn't it? And looking at him, other employees would also get the inspiration to work very hard, right? So reward may be in the any form. As I said, it may be promotion, it may be cash reward, it may be felicitating that employee in front of all the other employees. So reward may be in any form. You can give reward. But what about those people who are unable to achieve the objectives? Of course, you're not going to punish them, but you'll give them a second chance to achieve your objectives, right? So here here I think I have made very clear that what is MBO strategy. The first thing is that you have to set your objectives. Let us take a review now. You have to set your objectives. The objectives are to be set as per the ability and the capacity of an individual, right? And the objective should not be too difficult and too easy for individual to achieve. And performance review should be taken periodically, and those people who achieve their objective, they should be rewarded. This is what we learned in today's lecture. Okay, so with this I conclude today with today's lecture. Thank you.